that was for you or that was for me, but anyway. So please stand and make an assessment. In other words, reflect upon your ability to go in any direction. From this posture, this upright posture of standing on both feet. How ready are you to go down? How ready are you to go up? How ready are you to go forward? How ready are you to go backwards? How ready are you to go left? How ready are you to go right? There are your 6 cardinal directions. And some of you are actually trying that out. Oh, can I go up? Yeah. Can I go down? Yeah. Can I go up? Yeah. Can I go left, right? Yeah. Can I go forward? Ooh, forward is tricky. Maybe it's better forwards, back better. Ooh. So keep on exploring that. How do you know? Which is a tricky question, because you might know it conceptually, but can you feel that possibility in yourself, that each direction is available to you equally? And just by asking yourself that question alone, your posture has already changed to be more dynamic. Can you feel? Because the Latin root for posture means place. It's a place. But you know, upright standing posture is so much not a place as an activity. It's not a place. It's a number of places quickly interchanging between one and the other. That's what living dynamic posture is. That's maybe why he also calls it the biology of posture, because every living thing is never in a place. It's always moving a little bit. Now I can see some of you are starting to hang your hands a little bit down and your bums are going a little bit back. Oh, that's interesting. There's keep exploring. Keep having this question in mind. You know, where is it that I can go in any direction? Because there's a couple of anatomy books out there that really propose this idea that this standing posture that Feldenkrais is reporting is not necessarily what we consider to be fully upright. It's kind of semi-crouched. Yeah, it's like there's a little folding in each of the joints, and the bum's a little bit back. I can't remember the reference, but I'll put it on the knowledge base. And you'll see some sports people stand like this in the field when they don't know what's going to happen next. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a kind of readiness thing. Yes, of course. Yeah. I'm going to follow up your inquiry with. So, could you stand there a moment in whatever posture you want that allows you to move in any direction? And there was a nice question, and that was, how much muscular tonus should there be? How much muscular engagement should there be? And the best way to answer those kinds of questions is, okay, so now just turn up the volume of your muscular contraction, yeah, so that you feel that there's a little bit more tone in every muscle in your body, and then notice what happens to your capacity to go down. Okay, now, got that? Now do the complete opposite. Just go limp fish. Yeah, notice what happens to your capacity to go up. Yeah. So once you ask the question, yeah. So once you ask the question, you can explore that question somatically. Well, what if? What happens if I over muscle it? What happens if I under muscle it? And of course, once again, thank you, Susan, wherever you are, the Goldilocks effect applies, just the right amount of muscle tension. And how much is the right amount of muscle tension? Just enough. Can I use your thing here? Can you hold one end? Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh. No, that's good. No, that's good. I know. I don't have anybody to talk to. Okay, so let's say we go total limp fish. Okay. If this is a muscle and then you have to actually work with it, it actually has to go into a state of contraction before any bone moves. You're a bone and I'm a bone, right? Can you see how much slack there is? So much slack that it takes a long time for any of these. Now it's like, okay, you can pull, I can pull. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Now, if it's over taut, sorry, I don't want to rip this. Yes. No. That's okay. Now, if it's over taut, come on, give it a pull. You see, now there's so much tension, it's no good. It's too much work. So then how much is there enough slack so that Anna can sense that as soon as I move, she moves, and as soon as she moves, I move. Yeah? That means you've just got enough time to actually be ready and not enough slack to actually gather up to get yourself moving. Thank you, Anna. Yes. So, no, you don't. And the same answer applies, dynamic. So if we're built for dynamics, working at your computer with whatever dynamics you have available to you, that's how you work. And I know that's a global answer, but this will take us into realms that could be way over here somewhere, and I want to stay right here. Okay. All right. But I think that's a good question. That is an important question. Ask it on Friday. Yeah. So I don't want to fob it off. I think it's really good. But that, as a first approximation for an answer, gives you an indication of what that needs to be. So in other words, if you're so fixated on that computer screen that there's just the computer screen and you and no variation, you're already in trouble. Yeah. So that's the biology of posture. And does it have to do with survival? Yes, it does. Absolutely. Yeah. Does it have to do with being able to deal with all sorts of different terrain? Yes, it does. Absolutely. Does it have anything to do with us sitting in front of the computer screen? It seems so far removed. You go, what on earth are you talking about? I don't live my life like that. Yeah. So bridging that gap is important, even though we're not bridging it now. Okay. So now let's take a different perspective. What would happen if we moved away, if we just put aside this biology thing for a little while and just went into something that I think was mentioned in the first week, this business about angular momentum and turning around yourself. Yeah? It's got a little bit to do with biology and able to scan the horizon. But so stand there. And we did this yesterday fleetingly, but I think it's worth investigating now. Stand there with your arms out to the side. Don't have your feet too far apart. And now quickly turn yourself to the left and quickly turn yourself to the right. Keep the arms out to the side. Don't let them flop around. Don't let them flop around. Keep them the same. All right, now stop in the middle. Close your fist. Make a fist. Now notice that your arms just got a little bit shorter. Yeah? Turn around left and right. Can you feel a difference? Oh, huge. I am so sensitive. Yeah? It's a big difference for you. Okay, sorry, I didn't. Yeah, okay. So now, I thought you were sending me up. I'm sorry. So now instead of making a fist, could you actually fold your hands? Can you see what's happening? We're actually bringing the things closer and closer into the center. So now fold the hands upright. And now turn yourself. And the contrast is important. So don't do too many. Now stop in the middle. And now instead of having the hands like that, would you now have the arms like this? Or like this? Doesn't matter. And now turn yourself. Is that easier? Is it easier to get the ball kicking going? Is it? Now, to make a contrast, go right back out again, turn yourself and feel. How much do you need to crank up that car to get it going? And then go back to the elbow thing and feel the difference. All right. So now let's go one more. Up here. Now turn yourself. Yeah, okay. And now let's change that again. Put your hands on the top of your head, Simon says. Yeah. And turn yourself like this. Now notice that's different from your hands up, but it's also different from the elbows out. Can you feel that that's kind of, see, that's a little different. Does it make a difference when the hands are here? How good a top-loading washing machine impersonation can you do? And now try this. Have one hand tucked right beside you and have one hand up. And now turn yourself. And just in case you have a left-right bias, switch hands around. Yeah? Can you feel? No. The goal, good question. The goal at the moment is for you to feel the difference. That's it. The goal at the moment is for you to feel, to start this movement off, you have to inject power. You have to work. Yep. Spot on. See, now, because you've asked that question, we're both exploring the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. So that's all you're doing. So find out which position allows you to turn around your own central axis with the least amount of expenditure. I'm going to use your word, energy. And I don't mean some woo energy, or chi, or ki, or prana. I mean mechanical, metabolic energy. What you feel in your muscles working. And you know when I say woo-woo and prana and that, it's not like I don't want to go there. I'm not saying that they don't exist. But what we're exploring now is how your muscles have to work to start you moving. That's already an interpretation. Yes. Your experience is effort, less effort. The actual what's going on mechanically is more heat, less heat. More metabolic energy, but you have no access to that. You don't have a little going energy level up, energy level down. All you have is your sensation of what's happening. Yeah. Why don't we try that? Come on, try that. What's it like to turn around here?
But I think if you had the bottom as like, if you could pivot on the bottom, you could have a really nice like straight line.
Yeah.
Spin. Like because, yeah, like
Okay, so let's take your idea, but let's make it a little bit more accessible, because depending on who you're working with, it's what positions you can offer. So if we're working with, let's say I was working with a bunch of guys who are classical ballet dancers, I would say, you know, stick your leg out to the side and try to start spinning. It's really hard with your legs sticking out to the side. Yeah. If you're working with people that could make these postures, well, you know, what's it like to be in this posture and try to set yourself spinning? It's the same problem, but it's just within their domain of capacity. So let's try this. Have your feet a little bit wider apart than you just had them, but not so wide that it's so much. Take your arms out to the side. And now spin yourself. And now see, how can you use the ground better when the feet are wider? Now, the arms are still out to the side. Now bring the feet very close together, touching. And notice what happens to your capacity to generate power to spin yourself. And now could you please adjust your feet where you feel that there's a compromise between generating power and ease of spin. All right, let that be. Rest a little bit. I was a Boy Scout for one day. Only because originally when my family moved here from Croatia, we lived in Fitzroy. And the first 6 years, well, from the age of 2 to the age of 8, I lived in Fitzroy and I became a cub. And then at the age of 9, we moved to Box Hill and I moved on to Scouts, but it was a different culture and I just didn't get on with the kids. So I was a Scout for 1 week. But you know the motto, be prepared. So I've come prepared with a slideshow, of course, but also with props. Yeah. So please sit up. And let's look at something that Julia Sumner Miller, that good old professor from years ago, would absolutely love. Yeah? No. Why is it so? Why is it so? He's a bit like Moshe, really. Obnoxiously intelligent. Yeah? So look, you know, if you have this stick hanging from a string and you give it a bit of a spin, it just keeps spinning, yes? But if you take that piece of string and hang it this way in the stick and you turn it a little bit, it just doesn't spin for very long at all. And you can feel it in the stick. So as this stick goes around the room, yeah, turn it like this and then compare turning it like that. And you really quickly feel the difference in power. Now, this is how Moshe explains it. And here's a slideshow of a bunch of quotes from a book that he wrote for scientists. Of course. Yep. Yep. Yes.
A top is bottom heavy.
Yes.
And that combination makes it spin longer.
Yep. So that kind of balance is what they call dynamic balance, and there's a rotatory force. And this won't be the last time we visit this topic. We'll come back to it a little bit tomorrow as well. So without the motion, the top can't stay balanced. It's got such a small base of support, which will come back tomorrow. It's got such a small base of support that without the rotation, it can't stay balanced. So tomorrow we'll deal with base of support and center of gravity, but today we're looking at this whole business of what is good posture mechanically from a very particular perspective of being able to turn around yourself. Okay? So if I can find the right slideshow, we'll cook. Fellow guys will be new. Oh, there it is. Yep, there it is. Good. And it was important that you started off with that experience because it kind of channels the inquiry, or else the inquiry can go all over the shop. So, this is from Body Mature Behavior, which he wrote for scientists because he didn't want to be considered a nutter. He wrote 2 books at that time. One for scientists and one that contained his other ideas, which was the potent self, which actually didn't get published until after his death. That stayed in his drawer for 40 years. So this is the book, and these are the quotes. So studying the mechanics of the human body, its anatomy and its nervous system, we can outline the advantages of erect posture and the use for which the body is best suited. In human upright standing, the moment of inertia of the body around the vertical axis is passing through the center of gravity. Yeah? Is very small. So that red line is your center of gravity that passes through your body. And what I was noticing as some of you were turning is as you're turning, some of you were shifting that from one foot to the other foot. That's a different state of affairs than if you just went, oh, could you hold that stick up in front of me? Yeah, no, you can stand up. Yeah, no, yeah. So can you see? Just there. So notice if I spin and do that and that and that, can you see how that's different to this? Which one takes more energy? Yeah, the shift. That's different. It's different. Yeah? Yeah. So this is the question. Defining what the inquiry is becomes really important. Yes, it could be very pleasant. It could be because it's your habit. It could be because one hip hurts. It could be who knows what. But in terms of rotating yourself around an axis, the more you shift the masses around left and right, the more energy you take up. So this is why he's shown this little, the skeleton, the line coming through, and you see that little arm up the top, which is kind of your width? Well, that's the furthest bit of yourself from the center. So when you put your arms out to the side, you were even farther from the center. Yes, is that a question, Philippa? Yeah. Sometimes in people's understanding, the two aren't interchangeable. In my mind, they're interchangeable, but spin makes more sense, yes? So here you see an abstract representation of what that is. So if you can imagine that blue object is a sphere and it has a certain width to it, to set that sphere spinning requires a certain amount of energy. Because the sphere has a resistance, it has a mass that needs to be overcome, that's the inertia, to get it spinning, which is what you were doing. And you can feel that work if you're paying attention. You can feel it. You can feel the difference between this and this. It's the same mass. Oh, please. it'd be so nice if I just bent my arms and I could be 10 kilos lighter. That'd be nice. Yeah. But I have the same number of molecules in me here as I have here. So the mass hasn't changed. But somehow I feel easier to spin. Why? Because more of the mass is now collected towards the center. It takes less work to overcome the static inertia. Yeah? And you have that experience in yourself now. So here, from a top view, the skull out to the sides, it could, theoretically, become smaller still if the thorax were completely cylindrical, which is not, because we're kind of a flattened cylinder. So you notice when you put your arms up here and here, the shoulder girdle actually comes closer to the midline. So literally, you've narrowed yourself even further. The human body is put to the best use mechanically. He's going right for the jugular. The human body is put to the best use mechanically when it is held in such a way as to be capable of turning itself round with the least effort, i.e., the configuration which has the least moment of inertia around the vertical axis. Now, that's a nice collection of words, but what the hell does that mean? You know what it means. You're collecting these masses that were out to the side and you're just bringing them closer. And you're bringing them closer, and you're bringing them closer, and you're bringing them closer. Till everything is as closely collected around this upright posture. Yeah. Box.
Why is it then? I don't know exactly how ballerinas work, but in my image, it's that they start out here and then they come in and they do this little spinning top at the end. So why is that then? If they're trying to get that spin happening quickly, why don't they just start here? Why are they starting out here? And then
You see, you just want to complicate things. No, that's great. That's great. Because this is what I saw some of you doing. Some of you, when you were spinning yourself, you were differentiating your arms from your trunk. But when you saw me demonstrate it, what did I do? I kept my arms in the constant relationship to my trunk. So what happens with a dancer? They stand here like this. They throw that arm out there. In other words, they're just using a bit of a segment of themselves. They're throwing it out there. And then they gather everything in and it's spin. But notice, there's a throw and then there's a gather. Now, some dancers do that really nicely by gathering the leg behind and then just tucking it under. They go, whoop. Yep. So they get the little bit of momentum there, and then they gather everything in. With that little momentum, they just go spin. That's the spinning top question. Don't know. You'd have to go and experiment.
So what's he talking about here? Is he talking about maintaining the spin?
No.
But starting the spin.
Starting the spin.
You need that momentum to start the spin.
Starting the spin, absolutely.
So in actual fact, this isn't the easiest way to, or the...
It is.
Well, how? Because you can't do it.
It is.
How do you start spinning just like that?
Like that.
Yeah, well, so this is now a jiggling rhythm. It's not actually a spin.
Is my head displacing left and right? Am I going, or is my hair just staying around the same spot?
Yeah, that's a spin.
Yeah, well, why isn't this a spin?
Well, that's the agitation. Yeah.
I love that precision.
Turn, but not, yeah. Never turn around itself.
Now, to give you a can I give you a non-theoretical explanation? When you are lying on the ground, you have to roll. Yes? You can't spin unless you're on a rotisserie. Yeah. So literally, you have to shift yourself. But when I'm not lying on the ground and everything is available to move in space, and I have one criteria and one criteria alone, my feet stay in place. When you see a good Tai Chi person, they turn themselves and their axis stays between their feet. They don't go shift left, shift right. That red line, can you see where it lands? So literally, in theoretical mechanics, an axis is an imaginary construct. It doesn't exist. It's just this device that you gather things around and argue about. Yeah, that's all it is. But so if you have this line and your question is, how do you start that off? Well, that is the $60 question. Well, you started off with the muscles. We talked about this, the muscles that link to your legs, the muscles that link to your spine. You started off with the muscles that are closest into the body. And when you go and read, which you will at some time, Body and Mature Behavior, and then listen to his tapes, he talks about the perfection of some people, matadors in particular, who can stand there with a cape and the bull comes charging and they just go, yeah, they just go like that. Yeah. So that's what he's trying to get to here. But there's some rules of the game. You've got to keep something constant or we can be talking about 101 variables and we'll never get to the same place. Yeah, so that's why I said stand with your feet there, have the arms to the side and turn yourself, which I should have said spin yourself. Yeah? Does that make sense now? Sort of. The frown's still there. Okay. It'll come. Now, a small moment of inertia, and that just means you have to overcome the resistance. The small moment of inertia is the result of piling up the pelvis, the trunk, the head vertically, one above the other, which brings the center of gravity of the body to the highest possible level compatible with its structure. In this position, the muscular contraction sufficient to maintain the body and prevent it from falling is the smallest possible, least expenditure of energy. The minimal muscular tone is therefore present in that posture. One thing that we didn't try out, you trying to spin yourself being a quadruped. We didn't try this. Why don't you try that? Given that you spent quite a number of lessons finding your 4 points. So find your 4 points. Now, where's that stick? I'm going to hit somebody. No. Channeling Moshe again, sorry. No, it's better if actually you see. Could you, I won't hit you. Could you just go on to all four points? So now, see now, the mechanical axis of the body is no longer through the middle. I can't actually put it through her, but the mechanical axis would be somewhere around here. She'd be spinning around here. Gravity would be passing through here, and this would be the mechanical axis of turning. So to literally turn herself around, turn yourself to face me. Nope, you're dead. Yeah, yeah. Come on. Yeah, go on. See, how fast can you turn around? You're going to have to move your, yeah, you're going to have to move your feet. Yeah. There we go. See? See how much displacement she has to do? Because if you're spinning around an axis, you have to displace the bottom, you have to displace the top. And when you watch animals, that's exactly what they do. Yeah. No, not the axis of gravity. It was. But Philippa, that actually identifies a really important point that we probably haven't got to yet, but it's there. That there's an alignment between these two directions. The alignment of the direction in which gravity goes, and if you drop a ball, it just goes straight down, and the alignment of your own longitudinal axis through the body. When you're on all fours, do you mind? Yeah. When you're on all fours, notice that now there's a complete misalignment of those two. And now, in reference to all that, this is the circle. This is the sphere. And she has to turn like, it's like you'd have to go, come on, walk around this way. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And then walk around this way. Yeah, that's right. And even though you might have fantastic lateral bending and arching like cats do, it still takes more work, come back up, than actually just going, yeah. Can you feel the difference? So now could you try out and make sure that you feel the difference? Try it out. Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and a dog chasing its tail still expends more energy than you turning around your vertical axis. Now, if you're going to get into comparative biomechanics, well, you better go and study at a university, because that's actually what you're getting into, this variation in form and structure in different animals. So that's why it's important to know this and then have that question in mind for other instances. But at the moment, the most important thing for you to experience is that if you want to turn around yourself pretending to be a quadruped, you can feel it takes more work. And you want to have that contrast between being here and going, gee, someone's going to bite me in the bum. And, gee, someone's going to pinch me on the bottom. Hey, you, don't do that. Yeah. Different. Has somebody not played with a stick yet? So I guess what I'm saying is, stay with your experience at the moment. Even though this is a whole bunch of theory, I'm using this to point to your experience. Okay? So have you tried being quadrupeds and humanoids? No, you're not humanoids. You're just human. Outside. Yeah. We'll come back to this tomorrow. When you're upright, in this upright stance, your center of gravity is within you, but there are certain positions of the body that the center of gravity is outside of you, which is weird. It's like talking about a donut. Where's the center of gravity of a donut? It's not, it's where the donut's not. Yeah. So, next slide. This one? So there's a compromise between gathering yourself towards the middle. So if I'm going to do a quick evolutionary development, can you see that the more I come upright, the more all my body masses gather around a middle and are aligned with the axis of gravity. Mind you, a snake can also be gathered around the middle, but it can't be like that. Yeah. So that's the important point. And the other important point is that little blue dot, which we'll get to tomorrow. which represents, in this particular human frame, the center of gravity, which is actually quite high and up in the pelvis. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Yep. So if you want to find your best upright posture, and remember, this is a little bit of a distinction from yesterday. We were talking about the biology, which is being able to access every direction. In this case, he's really pinpointing a very particular idea. If you want to organize yourself well, then the test movement is turning around yourself. Bottom too far out, it takes more. Who was that guy yesterday? The Rockefeller guy? The Rockefeller guy. Where's my bottom? Oh, it's gone. Yeah, where's my tummy? So gathering yourself gradually closer and closer and closer around this vertical axis and exploring that possibility will get you a better posture immediately. So the closest analogy to the human body, and this is where the mechanics guy comes in. Believe me, there are no triangles in your body, no pyramids. So it's a conceptual contrast. It's just a conceptual contrast. It's an analogy that's trying to point towards something. So the closest analogy to the human body is a system of 3 pyramids with their bases uppermost, balanced one on top of the other. The pelvic bone and legs form the lowest pyramid. So here's this notion of stacking, but unstable stacking. And that's what we'll get to tomorrow, this notion of stability and instability. But for now, just how these masses are stacked. And when you take away the skeleton, there's the representation, there's the working model as an engineer that he has in his mind. Now, this is how he can inform himself. This is one of his ways that he thinks, which is useful for him, but might not be useful for you. But it could be. So it's a schematic. It's a representation. And it suggests the dynamic properties that one part can fall off another part pretty quickly. So there's some work that needs to be done to keep things balanced on top of each other. So remember when I said to you before, posture is not a place? That just means that these pyramids are wont, because of the force of gravity, to fall off each other. And something needs to bring them back. As they start to fall, something brings them back. And as they start to fall, something brings them back. So there's not a constant place, there's just a constant returning. Oops. And each one of these places has their own center of gravity, their own center of mass. And this is where we get to stable and unstable. So maybe we stop here now, because that's what we go on to tomorrow. Yeah? All right. Yes, please.
The last part, the pyramids, came to me the image, a dancer in a dance class. She talked about like a boat, the mastil.
Yes, yeah, mast.
Mast, and you always come back to the mast, and then there are the sirens singing. That song that takes you to the fantasy, and then you come back to the mast.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, so you're coming
That
back
wasn't
home.
much.
You find your alignment, you find your home, and then you leave home, and then you come back home and you leave home. And of course, the feeling of where home is can be more and more refined. And that's what he's trying to get to here. So yesterday it was about the biology. What does it, when you're at home and you have that biological thinking about where can I go to in space? Well, I can go in every direction just as easily. Today, when he's applying the mechanics of how much work does it take to spin yourself, that's a different home. And of course, the more of these things we visit, the richer and richer and richer your experience of what home is in this place that is prototypically human. That's it. And how you can depart and how you can come back. Yeah, nice. Sirens. They eat you, I think. Yeah. There's a nice book by a philosopher by the name of Maxine Sheets Johnson. I can't remember what the title is, but the premise of the book is interesting. She says, you know, as human beings, we have the capacity to change and shape how we move. And if we want to, we can really start to visit and explore how other animals move. You know, so you can explore a little bit of what it's like to be a quadruped, even though you don't have the structure of a quadruped. You can explore a little bit of what it's like to be a snake, even though you're not a snake. In other words, you can start to inquire into the nature of these different beings. And she just presents this as a really expanded field of cognition. She doesn't say it's a movement skill, but she talks about it as a cognitive ability that we can enter into different mind states by moving in different ways. Very useful for when you're, I won't use the word useful, very good for empathizing. Very good for empathizing. So yes, Narayan, you can ask. Yeah. And we have metaphors like this. Yes, we have metaphors in our language. You know, walk a mile in my shoes, which is mean, you know, go enter in my experience, understand what it's like to be me. And through these lessons, you do gain this ability to shapeshift a little bit, to have different bodily postures. Not all of them ideal, but at least you know where to come back home to. So that I'm not stuck in the, oh, my client. Yeah. That you can get into there, you go, oh yeah, oh yeah, I understand. Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah. And you come back out. Make sense? So yesterday it was biology. Today it's mechanics. Tomorrow it'll be mechanics again. Because that was one of the major worlds that he was successful in. And that's why he was chosen, I think I said 2 weeks ago. That's why the founder of judo chose him to teach judo to the West, because he could explain it in terms of mechanics, which demystifies it for a lot of Western people with their Western kind of ways of thinking. It's no longer about ki energy, but it's all about exquisite mechanics, absolutely exquisite mechanics. So you get a little guy this big, chucking a big guy that big. It's just exquisite mechanics. All right. Ready to do a lesson? Or do you need a little break? I hear little voices say, little break. Little break? 5 minutes, no more. 5 minutes, no more.